Up, slowly waking up like Jake and I. This is crisp Sunday morning.
Yes, sir.
All right, we are live. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Kurt, and hello to everybody. Welcome to another episode of Making Turbo Pit Fighter, where we're live on screen doing a sci-fi comic. Um, we're in the middle of the lettering. I'm in the middle of the lettering sequences, and you are doing the inking and coloring and toning um, sequences to finish up some pages for Turbo Pit
I'm
Fighter.
done.
Okay. Well, so
So
you can be working on some nudes or something?
now, well, I just wanted to. I always bring these up. Yesterday, I did a 2-hour figure study, figure drawing session at the Delaware Contemporary. I didn't want to go, and this is my PSA to artists. I really didn't want to go, though. These things are like I get two of them if I'm lucky a month. So I dragged myself out there, and the reason I'm showing this one in particular is I was brought up to look at doing figure drawing is not an art making session, but it's a searching session. And one of the things you want to search for is being able to put all the right amount of lines down on the paper that says what you see in front of you. And this happened. And it's one of those like art nerdy things that just sets me on fire. I know to other people, it looks like a bunch of scribbles, but in all sincerity, I could take this and start making like a painting or something from it because all the information has been established with that. But the PSA really goes down to, as a creative, there's times when you get up in the morning and it's so easy to just like, nah, I'm just gonna stay home and work on something else, or maybe I'll watch this or read this comic or something like that. But you kind of kill a day of productivity. I think even on your worst day of wanting to, you sometimes come out with the best things at the end. So just be mindful. Just if you have a tough day going forward, just go ahead and just drag yourself out there because it'll be worth it. So of course I was able to do some longer 20. The last one was fantastic because foreshortening is always a big challenge. So other than her head being a little bit too big for me, I think I really nailed the whole foreshortening and getting under feet and everything like that, and the chairs and stuff. So it's just all about putting your time in and just being what I call professional as an artist.
Yeah, we're big proponents of life drawing because it helps you. The more you draw from observation, the more you can draw from imagination. I came across this. Let me see if I can get a better shot of it. I came across this because I was cleaning up, and
Oh wow, those
I don't know
are Bridgmans. That looks
when
like
I
a
did
no. What is that?
when I did this. I don't know if this was like looking at a Bern Hogarth book or something, but
Might have been.
I was challenging myself to get all these different up and down angles, of a face. And, so my question is now is like, what do I do with this? Do I throw this out? Do I keep it? I just,
Ink it.
ink it, right. I know. I stuck it in a file and now I have to deal with it, years, years later. But, if there's some interesting ideas, I mean, I just kind of kept it as a reminder, like, yeah, you got to practice. But I not only practice that in my layouts, like let's try some more challenging angles, but I teach kids, to try all the angles. I have this great like Google Images thing I downloaded when I'm trying to teach kids how to do shading on faces. And it has every angle of the face, like looking up, looking down, looking to the left, looking to the right, looking up, left, down, right, all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't have like literally any kids that are willing to throw themselves into that, but I do. Middle
Yeah.
middle middle school is a little young for all that, but
Yeah.
I expose them to it, and I tell them, like, if you're going to be a good artist, you have to challenge yourself. There's not going to be anybody else. You might have some teachers, and you might have some examples that you're like trying to emulate, but at the end you got to do it yourself. And it's so true. Like all the great artists, they dive into like nature scenes and backgrounds and flora and animals and horses, and take on the hardest things, because when you come out the other end, you'll be better for it. I like the
Yeah, there's
yeah,
a young gal that I believe she's in high school. We have an arts high school in our area, Cap Calloway, and she's been there every time I've been there, and I have seen her grow in less than a year, figuratively. I mean, ballpoint pen, just kind of like just doodly type of things on like an 18 by 24 so piece of paper, but she does all of the drawings in the session on that one piece of paper.
yeah,
And Yesterday she was right behind me, so when I was able to stand up and step back, I was able to look out the side of my eyes, and then another artist was on the other side, and she kind of beat me to the punch, but she was just like, whoa, you come a long way. And then I just watched this past week a Roy Lichtenstein 18-minute documentary from his foundation on YouTube. And the title was All He Did for His Success, I'm paraphrasing, was work every day. And he had two huge studios, one in the Hamptons and one downtown in Manhattan, which was a building. Both these buildings he owned outright, and now they're being converted into his like museum and foundation thing. But man, for 18 minutes, if you really want to just like get choked up at like the severe amount of work that goes into making art, you know, you know, art, all the things that we keep talking about, not only just comic book art, but just making. It's just showing up. That's all it really is.
I was thinking about Liechtenstein the other day, because he's one of the last. He's one of the last visual artists in our lifetime to maybe become a household name. I say maybe because it's arguable of whether the average jerk on the street knows his name, but in the art world, he's reached pretty much the pinnacle. And I mean, he's like the number two biggest pop artist in history, right? And he also is comic book adjacent, right? Because it was his great idea, his genius idea, like in the 50s or 60s, to take isolated panels from comic books, recreate them in oil paint, and blow them up so that the panel becomes an isolated work of art. And everybody, probably is familiar with his like, plaintive like female romance comic panels where, she's saying, why can't he be like the others and stuff like that. And then there's been so many different, parodies of that. And there's a great artist out of Detroit, Niagara, who that's all she does. She has her own kind of like version of that. But um, just the other day, I was looking at an ad, and I see they have these gallery shows. So there's going to be in New Jersey. There's going to be a comic art gallery show with paintings on the wall, and I guess it's like covers, and I guess it's like pinups. But I was just thinking, like, wow, this has come a long way since Liechtenstein was trying to make fun of it, and say like, this is like
I don't think he was. I disagree with you. I'm sorry to interrupt, but Roy Lichtenstein was not making fun. He was aesthetically attracted to compositionally what was happening in that panel, and more importantly, the contradiction that pop art was making was extremely against the abstract expressionists, which was all splashy and throwaway. So both him and Andy Warhol were going against that by manufacturing art and the quotes error right around manufacturing, but also the methodology. So he paints each one of those dots. He makes the
No, I think
black holding line.
he used a metal screen and for that.
There is a template, but that's only to sketch it out. Like he'll still stipple over it. It's in many a video there, Jake. And then he goes back in, and then he works very hard at it. But making fun of it's not really, I think, a thing. I think he definitely would have leaned into it as a promotional type of thing, and people saying, "Oh, cool," and everything. But as an artist speaking to artists, he was definitely like Warhol, wanting to rail against the establishment, which at that time in the 50s and early 60s was still abstract expressionism. Willem de Kooning, Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, Franz Klein, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, well, I think the pop artists were different from some of those other names. And the idea of taking a soup can and the idea of taking a comic book panel are very similar, that they were taking this, art form that was considered disposable and forcing everybody to take a much closer look at it by blowing it up, right? And just the conceptual nature of like, being the first to do that. Like I took my students to the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, a couple of weeks ago. And some of the art is real, heavy concept, and I'm trying to explain to 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds and 11-year-olds, and yeah. Then no, it's good. I'm the thing that's really grabbing their attention is because we saw Starry Night by Van Gogh, and there's a big crowd around it and everything, and I'm telling them that painting is worth like $200 million, at least. And this painting here is worth like $80 million, like more money than your family will ever earn all put together in their entire life. And think about that. So, then they're like, well, what makes it so valuable? Because we get to this section, where Pollock is there and, I guess like Miro, and the art looks very childish and it looks very easy to do. And they're asking me why can't I do this? I can splash paint on a big canvas, with buckets. And I was like, yeah, but he was the first one to do it. And then they're like, oh, and so, he became collectible and everything. And yeah, the million people tried to do it every day, and try to make a name for themselves. But
it's derivative. That's you could even apply that to comic book art, I think a lot of the aesthetics that we're still dealing with are people who are aping, Jack Kirby, Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, Frank Miller. But those four alone aesthetically applied themselves in a place that most people just never saw as quote unquote necessary, not even doable. It's always doable. You as an individual creatively is always doable, but how are you going to say what you want to say? Hence, express yourself. And what we always do in the beginning is we start aping, the more popular or the things that just graphically we attach ourselves to. But it's all derivative. So you're not Jack Kirby. You're not Rob Liefeld. You're you're not Van Gogh. You're not that person. You are who you are.
It's a great point, because Lichtenstein literally took Kirby panels. It was unavoidable because Kirby was like, the mainstay guy. Yeah, the romance comics, and he took other Kirby panels too. Action, war stuff. And there's a great debate you could have, in the copyright space about okay, if he takes Kirby's artwork, blows it up real big, it's like almost literal tracing, and then he makes $20 million on it. That's his image, his composition, his everything, And I know the whole point of Lichtenstein is that he's taking something that already existed, and blowing it up. Same thing with the soup can, right? Suppose you're the graphic designer of Campbell's soup can, and like, oh, let's put the red with the stripe and black letters and blah blah blah, right? And now Warhol has made billions of dollars selling reproductions of that.
So has Campbell's Soup. They actually endorsed it. They endorsed it immediately because it was free advertising.
Right.
And when you see the interviews with Warhol, they're like, Andy, why Campbell's Soup? And he goes, oh, well, I eat it every day with a toasted
Right.
sandwich. He does.
Right.
And they're like, well, no. Aesthetically, Andy, what is it that you do? Oh, I don't know, but I just really like the tomato cake.
I had some this it looked like cornbread, and I dipped it in the tomatoes. Right? No, he was a master of marketing. He was a master of. I mean, the idea of mass producing fine art. Became a joke to itself too. And and pop art has been here ever since. It's fun to teach because it's eye opening, and it makes kids realize that everything can be taken in isolation and taken out of its context. And
everything's art, man.
Right, exactly. I saw that panel you were working on before, and I got to compliment you on the level of contrasts in there. The one where Turbo's stomping the head at the bottom. No, not that one either. No, it was a different baby was head out there. It was a big. Maybe it wasn't in the sick. Yeah, that one. Yeah. So I'm seeing like a whole. I'm not like seeing very much detail from my view right now, but I'm loving the the light and shadow, and the contrast, and there doesn't seem to be like any one value taking over, right? It's very dynamic, and so I think when we put the word balloons in, if anything, the word balloons, are the big eye sucks right now, because there's big vacuous
big holes of
white.
White. Yeah.
Why
and hence Jake, why there has to be the hand written lettering in it. And the moment that there is digital type placed in here, in my opinion, this entire page it's fucked. It just doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't sing. At this point, it sings higher than putting digital lettering in here. So that's why hand lettering has to be in here, because it's going to work with the mark making that's going everywhere. That's why I need to be the one that does the lettering.
Well, I'm on board for hand lettering, but I also want to comment on the stark contrast of those balloons. I think we're dropping in like a 20% background tint on them, and then the words themselves. The word, yeah. Well, we'll see how it works with each panel and each page, but I want the words to be integrated into the art too. And how many times we see like every single Marvel and DC comic every single day, and some of it is painted, some of it is like painted over with this Photoshop coloring and everything, and then they just put a black and white word balloon on top of it. Sometimes they play around with color, and sometimes they play around with like font, but they never think about it being part of the art. Like suppose it was to be blown up by Andy Warhol's people one day, so you got to think about every little thing. And so so I can't wait to see these when they're all done. But that one really looked good on screen, and I see you doing the other ones. I know what you're doing. It's very, very like heavy grades, so then you bring things back out later, right? You bring the white.
I'm already seeing, like, I've been playing around with my white pen, and it's just to kind of create a little, and I'll probably even go there will be one final pass for me, because these pages have to just be left alone for a week or so, or on time, for me to have fresh eyes on them. So I was able to, just to point out, this week I did jump out in my schedule. I made time. I cut masks out. You can see this is from that mask. I print out on 13 by 19 cardstock paper, which is the same paper I use. I cut out then all this, including the balloon and the such. Then I hit it with literally just like 2 or 3 sprays of my Liquitex black spray paint, and it was just to, and you'll be able to see this, people. All that building I do, it doesn't go away. It's just a very nice fine masking to put this to be darker, to make this brighter and more concentrated. Because if I didn't, you guys would be staring at Turbo's ass, and
Right.
not at the fact that the baddies are getting away with the credits and trophy girl. And so, as much as like I'm so excited to draw something as, you know, sexy as Turbo and in this position and all this kind of stuff, I can't allow that to become the focal point in your storytelling of laying out. So
Right.
that happened just so I could show this off. I did it one more time with black. Oh, then this page got printed out, and then I cut out these 2 areas and then hit it with white spray paint to basically make that sort of intensity of, like, you know, the action that these gunshots are going on. And then, you know, young Turbo's jumping through to put this knife in the back of this guy's neck. And then
That's interesting.
Same thing here.
Hold on. You don't too fast. Hold on.
Again.
Back up. Show me young Turbo with the knife again. Oh, close up. So are you? Yeah. So it looks like you're actually making the light in the background kind of like blur the edges a little bit, right? Like almost as if it was like a heavenly body or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she's making, you know, in a I am not comparing myself to a cinematographer, but I would assume that a DP would want to put that type of effect. That, once again, it's so cool to have this knife in this girl's hand and she's gonna stick. Yeah, okay, we get it. But once in the storytelling, how can I really make this a heightened point? And I'm really doing, with all the work that I've done here, this becomes the biggest heightened point of it, is that blurring and her emerging from it. At least I hope. I hope that has that impact.
Well,
and I established it beforehand by doing it over here to then graphically carry it over there.
Right. So that light would be like from some vehicle outside or something, because it is nighttime.
I don't. It's not even. I don't. It's not a physicality thing. In other words, it doesn't have a direct sense of light source. It could just be, like I said, like you said it very well, which is like this kind of like angelic type of moment. I mean, she's what, like 7, 8 years old here, and she's putting everything left in her that she's already experienced with her parents being murdered and her sisters and the other foster kids and stuff, you know, to stick the knife into this guy's freaking neck. You know, it's the fight. The fight begins here in Turbo. And that's why this panel has been so, you know, when I do my preliminary inking, I recognized during that 80%, no matter how cool any of this stuff is, this is something that's of the most importance that I'm going to have to work. And so when I lay all this stuff in, it's to build to be able to support that type of mechanism.
Right. And so in the movie version, right there in that scene, the light will be there and it'll be like, ah, right? And it'll be
yes. And it'll be slow.
Right.
It'll be a slow, like just a couple beats slow, like, ah.
Right, and then it'll speed back up. Yeah, no, I like it. But you know, also remember, like these guys were rousted in the middle of the night. You know, so you know, it's very easily explained by saying like that's the headlights of the truck outside or something, or they're blaring light. Like right on the first panel, you can see they're blaring light, and people are like straining to see, right? The first page.
And what I'm going to be working on from the rest of this episode and going on is, you know, I've been communicating to you about you and I both doing covers or pinups. I don't know if this would be a cover per se, but this was an old sketch I had done literally 2 years ago. Okay. And knowing that I'm done with this and you've got a day or two left on getting the lettering that we can then start collaborating into this, and then we would review the pages and put the final, you know, edits and feedback on that. I would get, you know, something done, black and white, maybe even color, to be then put in the teaser anthology going forward. So, just giving you a heads up.
Looks good. So what I need to do for this episode for me, I need to finalize the dialogue, and we have quite a few word bubbles here that are not filled with anything at all, and we need to figure that out in order to finish up. I think the first one, you know, I think the first one that's empty, is on the third page in, assuming we're going with all this dialogue as is. For the first two pages. The guy that's hitting her with the electrified whiplash is saying something, and I don't know what it is. So I guess question is is it ha gotcha, something like that? We're gonna have to make these decisions right here, right now, or otherwise we're kicking this to the next episode. Uh, it looks like ha gotcha would fit, or maybe that's a little tight. Let's see. I could do haw gotcha like this.
What if? Oh yeah, I like that a lot. I was thinking
All right.
something almost the same.
All right. So
Yeah,
this.
I mean, when we get to this point, Jake, my feeling is, let's say I have to call back to, the way you design and integrate story-wise placement of text, but it's even like that ha gotcha is very equal to a onomatopoeia, sound effect, blurby word. Like it almost like marries from that to, and he's just lumbering about in the home, the ring now and on his, blah, blah, these very more concrete pieces of text that are supposed to move you along with the pictures. But something like, gotcha, would go with that, the whip, and then he carries off to the, to the right, where then we see Turbo getting lashed. So
Yeah. Well, they finally got.
I'm endorsing the majority of your abilities in being able to, the onomatopoeia thing, and also just the kind of catchy, wording to just keep us moving. I'll be here to endorse, or maybe giving a different thing. But are you feeling like you have the majority of the, the concrete fundamental text in place, or you said you still have 2 more pages to get those?
Oh yeah, no, I did. Yeah. So we have 6 pages here. And I placed everything that I had from pre-existing, and as I said, this leaves us with some balloons that are totally empty because it just ended up between the conceptual thumbnails and the final art ended up being some changes, I guess, and I don't have any record of it. The only thing I have here is this very early, layouts with notes, and I consulted those last time, and that, so this was the first word balloon that didn't have anything in there, and I just wanted to fill it up and move along. The next word balloon, right, because everything else is pretty much laid in here. The next word balloon that doesn't have anything in here is that scene that we were just talking about, where Turbo is going to plunge the knife into the guy. The guy is saying something here, and I don't know if I have any notes on it at all. So I have to go back and check everything. But I would have to make something new, or else just get lucky and see if there's anything here. Right, we have this, and the page that it's going to, she's going to stab the guy. what did it say? The RM killed everybody. No. So what do we say there? What is that guy saying?
Which one?
So that panel that we just spoke about, Turbo's plunging the knife about to plunge the knife. There's a word balloon for the soldier.
The double word balloon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once again, like I have no visual basis for anything being said ahead of time because it's like the two panels before that is they're checking under the bed and they find more of the kids or a kid or two. Then he blasts underneath the bed, taking them out, and then there's definitely text that's supporting that action, right? This, in my assumption, would be something like, "Hey guys, I've got more, and I got another one in here." Thinking Turbo doesn't even have him, he's turned his back. He's seen her, but he's like, "Hey, there might be more on, trying to escape out the back."
He says that already over.
Like,
yeah, okay, he already says that over here. Sure enough, almost missed one, and then I think I remember something about she was squirming around or something. What didn't we say something about it's a little squirrel or something? She was squirming around like a little squirrel
under the couch.
Yeah, he just shot her under the couch.
Her sister.
Right, that's her little baby sister. She told her to hide under the couch. Don't come out no matter what happens. But they sniffed her out and they shot her. Let's see, and I distinctly remember us mentioning this last episode. Let's see. We had a deal. No, there's nothing here. That guy almost got a beat on me. No, there's nothing here. So we can invent some dialogue because there's no notes. As to what happens, as to what he said, you should have seen her squirming around like a squirrel or something. Haha, you should have seen her. There, got her. It's high pressure coming up with this. This dialogue has to work good, for this like pivotal moment. Got her. I'm just gonna temporarily write got her.
What if he's saying something like that would actually carry into the next page where something is being said off camera that is like weirdly similar to a time jump in Very Young Turbo and Kick-Ass Turbo. So do we have something in panel 1, page?
So the very next page, and I learned to be merciless, efficient. What else? Quick, merciless, quick, efficient. So yeah, we do carry on the next page with her taking out like this anger and revenge on the present day guys.
Mm-hmm. It's similar. I mean, the flashback is because she's taken this whip to the back, and so it sends her back into this literally like 4 panels.
Yeah, that one little moment.
All I'm saying is like the beat from here. This panel 2 has an offset comment from a baddie definitely the guy who's, or maybe not, because there's another. You know what I mean? And then I'm just saying the storyline's going to pick up from either panel 2, from 1-2 on page 15, and then once you get to 16, you're picking back up. But wouldn't it still have some base of similarity of what she experienced when she was like 7 years old?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how it's all written. That's how it's all laid out. The only problem is, what does the guy say at the bottom of that page? So, I'm putting in something like, "Got her. You should have seen her squirm." Right?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I mean,
I mean, for
yeah.
right now, it's, yeah. I mean, it's um, just necessary as a placeholder, because it's not like once you're done, you're just going to turn around and export it to me. You're actually going to take some time and just read the whole thing from, page 13 to panel to page 18.
Yeah. Do they have names they're calling each other?
I think one did.
Because yeah, she goes, exposed neck. Sure enough, hand almost missed one. Oh, in the physical con. Did Jarly? Oh no, Jarly is in the current day. It's not in the flashback.
Okay. Yeah.
Except this is weird because it kind of spills over. Oh no, he's in contemporary time. Okay. Yeah, so the thing is, if you look, we made this like double shaped word balloon, right? There's like two balloons. So it looks like we need 2 lines or 3 lines in the first one, and then like 2 or 3 lines in the next one in order to fit. So it's not only what they say, but it's like how long the words are. And there's also some run around here I got to get rid of. Okay. Got her. Boy, did she squirm. Yeah. So this first statement needs to be like its own thing, and you should have seen her squirm around is too long. You should have seen her squirm. We could make. Boy, did she squirm. We painted ourselves into a corner here.
Well, that's because are you definite that this guy? I mean, this. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. No, it's good.
Yeah, and this is real tight here. The world I had known was dead, but I didn't want to die. We can make this the world I knew was dead, but I didn't want to die. But I didn't want to die. Well, I can get this to fit now. Yeah, there. So what to say? You got her. What would they be saying, like, as they're reporting, to each other?
Well, they're going to be making, military maneuvers are only being, made based on directives. So the directive is to enter the building. Directive is to find out who's in the building. Directive 3 is to, take down all adults. 3 is to any of the minors. You know what I mean? Like the directive. So the next directive now would be what?
All right. So you bring up a good point, because as I'm doing the prequel world, I think we can set it up where there was an order to find the glower originally in that house, but the local guys just said it's just quicker and easier to just kill everybody in the house, right?
There you go.
Right. Got her.
No glower.
Right.
Can't see any of them.
Was
Haven't found one. We haven't run one. Let's clean this up for lunch.
what? Yeah. Was she the
I'm
one?
hungry.
Was she it?
Ooh, yeah.
Should have seen her squirm. So I can make these fit now, and I'm gonna duplicate this and get rid of it. But yeah, maybe we could kind of allude to, was she the one? It would be better.
Yeah.
But that, I don't know if that would fit. Was she the one? Was she the one?
Well, I mean, if I have to make a larger balloon, I can just make the larger balloon too.
Right, I know. So a lot of this is moot if we think about it that way. But there's also something zen about making it just like as is.
Yeah, but I made. You have to remember. Let's go back to. I remade all of the announcers' balloons because we wanted jaggedy, and we had said not only jaggedy, but we were going to put a gray screen behind it.
Yeah.
To be able to establish differentiation in going on, because other than this mouthy piece for the announcer, which is established prior to that page, you only get one more mouthy piece, and then that kind of like exhausts out because of it keeps going, and then keeps going. We don't see. So yeah, that was definitely what we were thinking there. And I do believe there was a couple of, like I didn't do that one. I'll know. I can see the slight difference in any like of the word balloons that I might have redone. That one looks like no, that wasn't. But anyhow, I as long as we make notation.
Yeah, but we've done this before. Like this is a little crowded. That's a little crowded.
Yeah.
We are variable in our lettering as you're doing it and as we're fixing it in the very end. But right now we just need to get the dialogue down and get the basic layout. Could she have been the one who doesn't fit? Maybe she was Maybe she was the one. Or maybe she was it. Doesn't make sense too more, but maybe she was the one. All right. Now, should have seen her squirm is the next word balloon. So we're working through. And then, yeah, I think we can, if we can get all these, we have a bunch more of these to do on the page where Trophy is going on her own. So we need to think about what she's going to say in these little panels. And I did have to drop the side. Or I could say done. Maybe she was the one. That might fit better. Maybe she was the one. That goes right. Okay.
Because how do they know who's who?
They know nothing.
Right.
Well, they know.
They're just butchering.
Right. So this
Maybe
is
that
how.
was the one. Maybe that was the one. Maybe that's the one. Who knows? Let's just get our job done and get the lunch.
Yeah, I mean, it's anybody's guess is as good as mine. But we're gonna set it up. So this will tie into like the whole search for glowers. That we're gonna be talking a lot more about in the casualties. This doesn't exactly fit. Maybe I don't know if we could phrase that any more economically, but so you'll just have to expand the panels. There's nothing going on there.
Good.
seen. Should have seen squirm. Should have seen squirm. Now the guy's a dock worker. We can make it from 11.26 to 11 points. Move it all together. Is there another word for squirm that's shorter? Or maybe we can, does it make any sense to reverse it? Should have seen her squirm. And now they're about the exact, oh no, wait. Now they're about the exact same size. All right, let's move on from there. Now the next panel or word balloon that doesn't have any dialogue is here. So, trophies all alone. Suppose I might encounter some undesirables in this area. It seems fairly lawless. We could just say seems fairly lawless. ... Inhabitants. So now she's saying, inhabitants. Inhabitants. And then these bums are waking up going, right? What are the bums saying?
Tasty.
Right. Well, there's not a lot of room. They can say something short and guttural. That's yeah. Or they could say, "What's this? Who's this? Who the? No.
Yeah.
Who's this? Who's that? Who's this?" I want to make it seem like they're like in a drunken stupor. You know, like who?
How about belch?
That's kind of sophomoric.
Thanks.
How about
Blurch.
Who? Who? And we'll move these together. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. And their words can be smaller on purpose because they're less important. And then look, this guy's saying mumble bumble.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Turn it into a musical.
Sample it.
Yeah, sample it.
They seem downtrodden, harmless, I suppose. Is downtrodden a good word? Now she's a slave girl looking down on somebody who's free. They seem, yeah, we could get a better word than downtrodden. What's that?
Yeah, definitely. Let's go for a better word there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so just to time us out too, got about another 10 minutes till we get close to 11:15. We do have an interview coming up right after this, and that is with Pat O'Malley. And it's Pop Scars Volume 1, which actually is being kickstarted right now. So I will put information in getting to this Kickstarter.
I thought it was out already.
Yeah, well, we're gonna find out more about Pat O'Malley and his Punch Publishing. So we met him at IC3, connection we made through Mr. Matt King. So looking forward to this, and yep. So we're gonna make sure we're prepped for him.
They seem downtrodden, so we could say defeated, destitute. harmless, I suppose. Or maybe we'll say local bums. Right? Why wouldn't she say she's talking to herself?
Sleaze.
Yeah,
Sleaze.
maybe there's a word for maybe there's a word for people that are in the wasteland, but they don't have any weapons, any powers. They're just like kind of at the mercy.
Or could they just be leeches?
Well,
Just people
there's
trying to live off of, whatever.
they're just
Whatever.
hanging out.
They're just hanging out. They're extras in the movie.
Scroungers.
Scroungers.
Yeah. Scroungers. I like scroungers.
I do too.
And she could say they're harmless, I suppose.
Harmless scroungers.
Well, there's a pretty big balloon, so I want to say. Oh, you know what? Let's put local above. There, that all fits.
How
There.
about the local opportunists?
No, the opportunists are going to be. No, these guys are going to be nothing compared to the freakers, the berserkers. All right, so that's good. And then they go, hey, hey. All right, so she has nothing in this word balloon and in this next panel. And these guys are just like surrounding her, like, hey, hey, hug, hey, hug. But what does she say? And going back to the notes, off of me, you filthy vagrant. Where is all that? Where is my notes? Is there any more? What is all this? This is all turmoil on the planet of the pleasure box. And yeah, I had all the materials here. If it's not here, it doesn't exist. But there's nothing additional. This is old. So on this page, going back, close long alley. For once, just to be left alone. Now where am I? And then they seem filthy, downtrodden. So maybe that's what I write. These guys are filthy. Oh, she says filthy here. We're filthy vagrant, so we use filthy already. Not going to be enslaved. Again, I'm going to fight for my freedom. Oh. So that I had down here, and I know where I could, here. This could go all the way up here. I think this is where it was supposed to be originally. I'll fight for my freedom if I have to. And so that solves that mystery. Right? Is that good for her to say there?
Yeah.
All right, we're getting inside her head a little.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this fits very well. Right? These word balloons are such weird shapes. I'll fight for my freedom if I have to. If I have to. Yeah, that doesn't look good. ... Here, there we go. See? It all works out. Oh, off me, you filthy vagrant. That all fits in there. So now the next thing that has no word balloons is here. This whole panel. So they're going like herg. Turbo's pulling up. She goes, I'm not going to be enslaved again. She's saying all that up here, and I have it all over here. And then all here, just for once to be left alone, has no place. So this could be a good place for her. But look, she's got 2 word balloons, so we gotta get on the stick here. To be left alone for once, just to be left alone for once. That could go either here or here. Oh, to find my own way. Okay. Good. And then Turbo pulls up. There you are, little honey. Want to ride? No, thank you. I'm not going with you or anyone else anymore. I'm not associating with pit fighters any longer. Okay, so we don't need it anymore here. That's redundant. I'm not going with you or anyone else. That all fits. And move it. Yeah. Okay. I'm not associating with pit fighters any longer. Thank you. Maybe she'll say thanks, but
No thanks.
Thank you, but I'm not going with you or anyone else. I'm not associating with pit fighters any longer. And Wappy and the chieftain are both dead. You've got your money. I'm emancipated now. And then I'll fight for my freedom if I have to. Yeah. Yeah, so this I have to fit all this in right now real quick. Maybe this can go down here. Wappy and the chieftain are both dead. We could take out the you've got your prize. Should we call it money anymore? Should we call it creds? Peas?
I like prize.
You've got your prize? No, she's the prize. She doesn't have the prize.
Well, what is
Bounty?
Yeah, it's not bounty.
Prize money.
The booty. She's the prize and the money's the booty.
Well, we called it creds before. What do we call it? You've got your reward?
Yeah. Reward is
No.
well because of the whole that's a part of the pit fighter prize system, right? So it's gonna be the winnings.
Well, Turbo wasn't fighting for her in the fight, but she was technically, but she's arguably fighting for her in the outside fight after they kidnapped her, right?
Yeah, but they took off the badges took off with the cash from what's his name?
Right. So she took the money.
The office.
Yeah. Well, thank you, but I'm not. Thank you, but I'm not going with you or anyone else. Wappy and the chieftain are both dead. You've got your money. So she's trying to argue with Turbo, like, why are you bothering with me? Mm-hmm. She's afraid that she's going to be enslaved by Turbo, like everybody else. Wappy and the chieftain are both dead. You've got your money. It makes sense to say money, but do they even call money anymore? Because it's radioactive peas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm emancipated now. This, I'm just trying to do some copy fitting here. I'm not associating with pit fighters any. It's hard to fit this all in. Thank you, comma. Lobbying the chief of dead. You've got your money. You've got your prize money. I wish I could fit that in. Or
well, if I have to make another word balloon for it to get in there, unless it's just going to block too much of the beautiful art.
well, it fits if I just horizontally scale a little. I also have to.
All right. Well, we're at 11:15 marker, so let's pack it in. So we're nice, fresh and dandy for Mr. O'Malley.
Okay.
I want to just thank everybody that popped in, still down there with us on YouTube. And then, yeah. Another good episode. You're making way with the text, the lettering. Well, I'll get to the lettering part. We got a pin up. So we are moving towards our third teaser / anthology, which has got 6 pages from Ken Landgraf. Once we get the lettering done, we'll get together with Alex Turbin and start working on his 10-page script. Most definitely with him, since we've had him on the show. And yeah, and then we have some pinups possibly I think we're going to have to start looking out for, because we got one from our interview with Noah Luciani, which I just finished editing this morning, which will go up tomorrow in the morning time, which was a fantastic interview. First interview we had where our guest Drew on live with us, or while we were recording. So it's really cool. And a little pin up. He's given us permission and a copy to put in the second Turbo teaser. But other than that, Jake, let's let these people get back to reading comics, making it if they choose.
Yes, sir. Folks, make sure that you check out our other channels. We have Comics That Influence, where we do flip throughs. We have the Indie Creator Exchange, and you can still get a couple. We still have a couple copies left of the second Turbo teaser. If you're interested in that, you can still order it. And I think I have an example of it right here. Yes, I do. There's just like a handful of these left, and $3 a piece plus postage. So go ahead and order it up, because one day it's going to be museum piece.
That's true. That's true, because my copy of the Turbo teaser number 2 has been sold out. So since IC3, so yeah, we've got to make things. I got to double check and make sure that I have this available on Open. I think I might have closed it off because I thought you had sold yours out, but I'll double check. KurtBruegel.com is where I'm selling Turbo teasers, all things Turbo, with our own website there. But other than that, Jake, I'll see you next Sunday.
Yes, see you back here Sunday. Folks, tune in right around 10 a.m. Eastern. Every Sunday we go live and we draw or do whatever we do. And do your own drawing while we're doing it. We'll see you guys then.